Well, hello, welcome again to a reading through of St Paul's Epistle to the Romans, and I got up to chapter 7, verse 13. Now, the remainder of this chapter is fairly complicated theologically and philosophically, so I'll leave it to the commentaries to unpack it. I'm just going to translate it as it comes. So he's talked about in the earlier bit about the law being hagios, holy, and the commandment being holy and just and good. And he now begins with another rhetorical question, to unagathon emoi egenetos thanatos, me genoito. And is then that which is good, or rather has that which is good become death for me? Me genoito, may it not be. Ala he hamatia hina phane hamatia, dia tu agathu moi kat agadzomene thanaton, hina genetai kath hyperbolein hamatolos he hamatia dia tes entolas es. But sin, in order that, and I should actually comment here that this is the subject of the sentence here, but there's no verb that goes with it. So unfortunately, this is a sentence with no main verb because it has several parenthetical clauses, and but it doesn't actually have a main verb in it. I'll just translate it as it stands. So, but sin, and then in parenthesis, in order that it might appear as sin, subjunctive from phino, and then we get a participle agreeing with hamatia, working or operating or producing almost, working death for me through that which is good. So he's picking up this to agathon. So through that which is good, working death for me, in order that sin might become exceedingly, this kath hyperbolein, this is an adverbial expression which occurs elsewhere. So it means exceedingly or beyond measure. Now, hamatolos normally in Greek is a noun, second declension noun, meaning a sinner. Here it must have the sense of an adjective, sinful. That's the only way of making sense of this. I think Paul's got a bit confused with what he's writing because there's no main verb, as I said in the sentence. So sin, in order that sin might become exceedingly sinful through the commandment. So I'll just do that bit again because it's fairly confusing. So, but sin, in order that it might appear as sin, operating or working death for me through that which is good, in order that sin might become exceedingly sinful through the commandment. And I'm not sure what the translators do about the fact that there's no main verb here, but that's what's written. Oidamin ga hoti honomos pneumatikos estin, ego desakinos ami pepramenos hupoten hamatian. So, for we know that the law is spiritual, pneumatikos, but I am sarkinos. This is an adjective formed from the noun sarx, meaning flesh. So I am fleshy, made of flesh. It's really it really means almost I'm a human being. So the law is spiritual, but I am made of flesh. Pepramenos, this is a perfect passive participle from the reduplicated present form piprasco, and it's got an iterative sk and it's got that reduplicated present, pit, prasco. If you pull all that out, you get the root of the verb, which is pra, and this is perfect passive participle. So it means to sell, and so this means having been sold under sin. So for we know that the law is spiritual, but I am fleshy, made of flesh, sold under the law, sold under sin. Hogar kat ergadstomai uginosko. Ugar hothelo tuto prasso al homiso tuto poio. Now we get quite a few examples here of what grammarians call hyperbaton. We've seen it before in the New Testament, and it's very common in classical Greek. It's where the relative pronoun comes before the antecedent and not after it. Normally in English, the relative pronoun comes after the antecedent, but Greek likes to reverse that, and you've just got to keep it in your head and put it together. So it's for I do not know. We've got to supply tuto, that which kat ergasdomai. Literally, well, I am operating, I am doing. I'll probably just translate it as doing, I think, here. For I do not know that which I am doing. Uga hothello, for I do not do, the u has to go with the main verb. So I do not do this thing, and then there's the relative pronoun, which I wish. For I do not do that which I want to do, understood, but I do this thing which I hate. Again, hyperbaton. E de ho uthello tutopoio sum femito nomo hoti kalos. If I did this thing which I did not wish to do, understood, I agree from sum femi, from sun and then femi, and then nu turns into a labial nasal, a mu before the phi. So I agree with the law that, and you've got to supply estin, it is kalos, it is noble. Nuni de uk eti ego katogasdomai auto ala he oikusa en emoi hamatia. And now we get this deictic nuni. It's just noon with an iota on the end. It's quite emphatic. So, but now, no longer am I doing it, but the sin dwelling from oikio in me. It's a very interesting phrase here that he says it's not me that's doing it, but the sin which dwells within me. We have an interesting interpretation of hamatia here as though it were some kind of solid thing that living inside of him. Oidegar hoti uk oike en emoi tu destin en te sakimu agathon. For I know that there does not dwell in me agathon, a good thing. Tu destin, that is, in my flesh. For I know that there does not dwell in me a good thing, that is, in my flesh. Toga thelain paraketai moi. Tode kat ergadzes thai, to kalon u. Now we get here two, I think, articular infinitives. The top goes with the thelain and the top goes with the kat ergadzes thai. So for, it's the willingness, the desire to do good. So the willingness, paraketai, literally lies beside me. It's para plus kami. So the willingness lies, we might say, within me, but it literally lies beside me. But the action, the doing of good, u, does not. So take the kalon with the first part as well. So for the desire for the good, lies beside me, lies in me, but not the action. So, but the doing of good does not. Variant readings here. Uga ho thelo poio agathon, ala ho u thelo kakon tuto praso. For I do not do the good which I wish, but I do, I do this bad thing which I do not wish. So, for I do not do the good thing which I want to, but I do this bad thing which I do not want to. A de ho u thelo, and ego in brackets, tu topoio, ugeti ego, cat gasdamai auto ala he oikusa en emoi hamatia. So, but if that which I do not wish, this thing I do, so take that bit first, so if I do this thing which I do not want to, no longer do I do it, but the sin which is dwelling in me. Heurisco ara ton nomon, to thelon ti emoi poien to kalon, hoti emoi to kakon parakatai. Then I find ton nomon. Now, nomon here I think has the sense of principle or rule. It's one of the many meanings of nomos. You can translate it as law if you like, but it really is more of a kind of principle here. So then I find the principle for me wishing to do what is good. I find this principle that Tokakon, the evil thing, lies beside me. Sun eidamai ga to nomo tu theou kataton eso anthropon. Blepo de heteron nomon entois melesin mu, antistratuomenon to nomo tu noos mu, kai aisk melotisdonta me into nomo, tes hamatias to onti en tois melesin mu. So back to 22 here. So now this is sun plus heidamai. Heidamai is to take pleasure in something, and the with normally in classical Greek this would mean I take pleasure with someone. Often translated here as I delight in, I rejoice in. So it's literally for I take pleasure with the law of God. In other words, I delight in or I rejoice in the law of God. Kata in regard to ton eso anthropon, in regard to the inner man. Blepo de, but I see heteron nomon, another law or principle, in my members. This is the dative plural for melos, third declension neuter noun. And this, agreeing with nomon, is antistratuomenon. So again, we have lots of, Paul seems to like military terms, and we have here antistratuomai, to campaign against, to fight as a soldier against. So I see another principle in my members warring against or fighting against the principle of my noos, my mind. This is a genitive from nous, of my mind. And Ike melotisdonta, again another military term here, again agreeing with nomon. Ike melotisdo is to take captive. So taking me captive in or by the law of sin, the one which is, so just a dative participle here from verb to be, so which is in my members. Aikmalotisto, very old word, an aikmalotos. It originally meant aikme was a spear, and the allo root here is from the verb haliskamai, to take, which is used as a passive from hierio. So the word originally meant someone who is taken by the spear, i.e. taken captive in a war. And then it simply means to take a general sense of taking captive. Again, as I said, Paul likes these military terms here, so just to do this bit again quickly, but I see another principle in my members warring against or fighting against or campaigning against the law or principle of my mind and taking me captive by the law of sin which is in my members. Talaiporos ego anthropos, tis merusatai ektu somatos tu thanatu tutu, charis de to theodia Jesu Christu tu kuriou hemon. So who, this bit firstly, talaiporos, good classical word, it means wretched. Talai is often a word of its, the etymology I think is a little bit obscure here, but it means wretched. I am a wretched man. Here it's being used as an adjective, I think. So wretched man that I am is often translated, but I am a wretched man, or perhaps human. Tis who will save, future from ruamai, who will save me from the, well, literally from the body of this death, which you could take the tutu with the somatos, so of this body of death, or from the body which results in this death, a kind of defining genitive perhaps. Paul uses genitives in very funny ways, so who will save me from this body which results in this death? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord. Ara un autos ego tomen noi Juliuo nomo theou teidi sake nomo hamatias. Now we had ara there, so an ara un. Therefore, then, I am a slave. Now we get a nice tomen and a te de. So I am a slave in my mind to the law of God. So that this to goes with the noi. So in my mind I am a slave to the law of God, but in my flesh understand I am a slave to the law hamatias of sin. And that is the end of chapter 7.